In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you 3 easy ways to be able to create an arrow here within the software of Inkscape. So the first way that I want to show you is we're going to use some shapes. So I'm just going to go over here on the left-hand side and I'm going to click on Create Rectangles, and I'm just going to draw out a really skinny rectangle here. And then I'm going to click on the stars. It says Create Stars and Polygons, and I'm just going to draw out the end of my arrow as a star. Now, if your star is not in a triangle shape yet, up here at the top, once you draw it, you can select how many corners, you can change your spoke ratio, and then you don't want it rounded at all so that it has points at the end. So I'm going to take both of these elements and just line this up here with that rectangle that I've drawn. And then I'm going to go to Path, Union. So now they're not 2 separate objects, they're all one as one arrow. And then I can make this smaller to kind of put it over here on the side. So that's the first way, is by using shapes. The second way is right over here. If I go to my Draw Bezier Curves and Straight Lines, I can click once and that will give me this line. And if I click again, I now have a line that I can add my arrow onto. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool. And I'm going to go to Stroke. Over here, Fill, I don't need a fill on my line, but I do need a stroke, so I need to make sure that I have a stroke on there. And then my stroke style is, I'm going to make it a little bit fatter. That's like the thickness of the line, just so that we can see here what it is that we're working with. And then I'm going to go right here to markers. And what markers are they are going to be the end of your line. And so that's where you can add in, if you want one of those arrows, or maybe you want a smaller one. They have a bunch of different options here in Inkscape. So you can add those in and it gives you a really easy arrow. You can also change the end cap. That's this end point of your line by just clicking there if you want it to be rounded instead of straight. So it looks like we're good to go, but let me show you, because if you end up saving it like this, you'll only be cutting a single line. So if you go to View Display Mode, you can check where your lines are and notice how it's just going to cut one skinny line. So let me show you how to adjust that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Path, and we need to say Stroke to Path. And notice how now it's outlining the stroke rather than just one skinny line down the middle. Now, we have one more step that we need to do. We need to ungroup this so that these are 2 separate objects, the point of the arrow, and I can move this point of the arrow, and I can go back to View Display Mode Normal so that you guys can see what I'm doing. But you can move this around if you want or adjust it. But I need to put these 2 together so they become one object. So I'm going to go to Path, Union. And now when I go back to View, Display Mode, Outline, you can see I've got a nice beautiful arrow there ready for me to cut on my cutting machine. So that's the second way, is by drawing a line and then using the built-in arrow points and tips that Inkscape has here within their software. Now the third way is we're going to use our Draw Bezier Curves and Straight Lines again, and I click once, it gives me this line again. If I click and hold and drag out the ends, it pulls out these little handles, is what those are called, from my point, and it'll kind of give me a little arch. And then I can click again and it'll give me another arch. And I can draw an arrow to be whatever shape or line that I want it to be. Okay, and then I can go over here to my stroke style again. I can adjust this and I can change the thickness of that line. I can change the end cap if I want. But if I don't like one of those specific markers that Inkscape has to offer, I can always go back to my pen tool and I can draw one in. So if I just want to draw in an arrow, I just click, 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 and that will create a triangle there. Now, on my triangle, I don't necessarily need a stroke on there, but I do want it to be filled in. So I can turn my stroke off, and then I can have my fill on so that it looks very similar to the other one. So you can make that, shaped however you want or angled however you want. It's totally up to you. Really, the sky's the limit on creativity here. But remember, again, this line, if we go to View, Display Mode, Outline, it's still that single line. So I need to go to Path, Stroke to Path. And now though, I have 2 separate objects. I don't want them to cut overlapping. So I'll highlight both of these, say Path, union, and now I've got a beautiful arrow there that's ready for me to save here in my software. Okay, so those are 3 different ways here within Inkscape that you can make arrows personalized to whatever type of design that you need. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you back in the next tutorial. Bye.